How's it going? So this is the aviation career presentation, which is the final assignment for this course. So a couple things right from the outset. I'd just like to say that I've really enjoyed this course, and I wasn't sure about the video format at first, but I've enjoyed making videos about the various careers we've been researching and looking at other people's videos, and it's been an enjoyable and beneficial learning experience. Also, number two, I am very, very sick. I actually called out from work today and told them I'm not coming in, so if I say something that doesn't make sense or I look like I'm not doing so hot, it's because I'm not really feeling too well today. But jumping right into it here, the profession that I chose for my presentation is professional airline pilot. I'm sure a lot of people chose that. I'm going to be talking about what I found in my research and what my own personal experiences are with my time, even though it was a while ago working in the 121 world. So I have a little bit of an overview of what the job is, some of the education and experience that you need to do the job, what the differences are between some of the air carriers as far as regionals and majors goes, what the lifestyle and some of the monetary compensation one can expect might look like, and then some final thoughts overall. So Merriam-Webster describes a pilot as a person who flies or is qualified to fly an aircraft or a spacecraft. Thought that sounded kind of cool. They threw spacecraft in there at the end, and they said a person who flies or is qualified to fly. So it's kind of self-explanatory, though. I think if you're a professional airline pilot, you're flying for a Part 121 scheduled passenger air carrier operation. You're operating the aircraft for that carrier as efficiently and safely as you possibly can. That's the job, right? So what are the requirements thereof? Strictly speaking, especially if you're talking about a regional carrier, there isn't really a necessity for a quote-unquote higher level education. You don't have to have a college degree. Most of the job postings, if you go to most regional carriers' websites, they will say high school degree or equivalent. So not really necessary. If you don't have a college degree, you can go get a job being an FO at a regional air carrier. But what we've seen with a lot of the careers that we've researched in this class, and what you'll see, I think, even in this profession with professional aviators, is while it's not strictly speaking required, the further you progress in this career, there will at the very least be preference given to somebody that has a degree. Or when you start talking about major or legacy airlines, they will, even if they don't outright say it, they will require that you have a 4-year degree. And on top of that, if you have a 4-year degree in an aviation discipline, you're just setting yourself up for success, especially over somebody that doesn't have something like that. So you can take that for what it is, but there's, if you're going to be a professional aviator for a Part 121 carrier, if you're going to be a professional pilot, you're going to need an airline transport pilot certificate, and you're going to need an ATP. That's going to necessitate 1,500 hours total time. So you're going to get your certificates and ratings. That's not going to take you 1,500 hours. Typically, a lot of people go the CFI route. They'll get their CFI, their CFII, their MEI, maybe fly Part 135 if they're not going to instruct to build time and get to that 1,500 hour benchmark. There are some exemptions in the CFR that will allow for 1,000 hours and 1,250 hours respectively. If you go to an institution that will give you a 2-year degree at 1,250 hours, you can get what's called a restricted airline transport pilot certificate, or RATP, or with a 4-year degree at 1,000 hours. You can get that RATP and function just basically like you have your ATP until you get to that benchmark. So I'm in a little bit of a gray area. So when I got furloughed over 12 years ago, there was no such thing as a 1,500 hour rule, and I have about 1,100 hours total time. So even though I'm a former Part 121 pilot, if I'm going to jump back into the 121 world, I'm going to have to go either get CFI and start instructing, or going to have to fly Part 135 or something like that until I can build time and get to that 1,500 hour benchmark. You're also going to need a medical certificate, in a lot of cases a first-class medical certificate. Section 61 of the CFR kind of gives a breakdown of what's required for that, but that's going to be a necessity. So if you're going to get to that benchmark and you're going to get to 1,500 hours, you're able to maintain a first-class medical certificate, and you're going to go to work for an airline. It's typically going to be a regional airline. You're going to fly for a regional airline until you get to 1,000 hours turbine piloting command time, or PIC hours, and most of the time regional airlines are stepping stones for pilots. So they'll put their time in there and they'll move on to a major carrier, because that's where they're going to want to be. The lifestyle, the schedule, the pay is just, life is better at the majors than it is at the regionals. And that's really what the difference is. Regionals typically operate smaller aircraft and shorter routes, and are a stepping stone for pilots. They're going to spend a small amount of time in their career there, building time until they can move on to something that's going to be a little bit more lucrative for them. Pilots know that, carriers know that. That's sort of an unstated understanding between pilots and the airline. So when you show up at a regional, you'll hear the term pay your dues quite a bit. You're going to be working an undesirable schedule. You're going to be working weekends. You're going to be working holidays. They're going to get what they can out of you to just operate the airline. But yeah, it's also kind of a two-way street. You're also building time so that you can get that 1,000 hours turbine PIC time and move on to the major. That's probably going to be the destination that you want to end up at. When you show up to a regional, there are a lot of them that offer bonuses right now. Those new hire bonuses, and in some cases 2-year retention bonuses, are pretty attractive. I think personally I'd like to see a higher hourly wage for first officers at the regional level, but the fact that a lot of them are offering bonuses is still pretty attractive. And once you move on to a major airline, and especially as a captain at a major airline, the pay is going to be a lot more attractive than it is at the regional level. So in the interest of time, without going too long, just kind of as a summation, I think that professional airline pilot can be a very, very lucrative career. It may be beneficial to you if you're willing to put in the time to get the certificates and ratings that you need, if you can hold that medical certificate that you need, if you can pay your dues at that regional level and then move on to something that's going to be a little bit more comfortable for you in terms of lifestyle and compensation, then that's a great way to go. You know, it's not always roses and sunshine. Sometimes it's working a lot and getting junior manned and junior assigned and sitting at the airport and ready reserve and all of that. But if you can deal with that, if you have your end goal in mind of having a nice career that is something that you're passionate about, which I think a lot of us in this class, we're passionate about aviation or we wouldn't be here, but if you want to be a professional airline pilot in the Part 121 world, if that's something you're working towards, then you know that's sort of something that makes that a little bit easier to deal with. So if you're willing to deal with all that and you can put up with all that and you can kind of trudge through, then I think you can be in a position eventually where you have a nice job that, you know, it's something that you're working a desirable schedule, you're getting paid a living that makes your lifestyle very comfortable, and you are doing something that you're passionate about. Man, that's an awesome thing. And that's really what I think a lot of us that are pursuing trying to be a Part 121 pilot, that's what that's all about. So again, in conclusion, I've enjoyed the class and I've enjoyed my time here, and that's what I have for this presentation. So